Hello everybody, welcome back to another Minecraft video, and today we are on 1.6.2 because my computer would get fried if I played any other version past 1.12, or sorry, any version past 1.12.2, my computer would fry itself. So today, I'm on 1.6.2, well that's reason number one, but the other reason is I'm limiting myself on what I can use. Today we will be exploring the concept of a T flip-flop memory versus an sr-latch memory. Now, for anybody that wants to sit there and argue with me, saying, "Oh, well, T flips, sr latches are technically T flip-flops, but much more primitive or crude," no. Okay, this is an sr latch. This is a T flip-flop. A T flip-flop would only have one input and one output, and you need to press that input twice to get it to turn permanently on or permanently off. Now, an SR latch, what if I just put a second button over here? Therefore, I could just technically press this and then press this, and it would be an SR latch. Still, no, it would not be an SR latch. So, well, what if I add another torch so that way when I press this, it swaps which one is which? Again, not an SR latch. This is not an SR latch. These are hooked up to the same point to toggle the same thing. An SR latch would have always has two different buttons controlling two separate parts of the circuits that turn on two separate parts of an output. For example, let's reset the first one. Okay? It doesn't permanently switch to it, because I can always just press this one to reset it or switch it. So it's not permanent, it's always permanently like that if I do not press the second button, but with the T flip-flop, it's not permanent it's always changing. You can say it. The T flip-flop, on the other hand, I press either button, it doesn't matter, it's going to the same thing. With an SR latch, if I press the same button, I couldn't have just one input. I would have to have two, because there are two separate ways it's going. So, for example, SR latch, even if you do have two buttons, this would not be considered an SR latch. This would still be considered a T flip-flop. Two buttons, same input, same output. SR latch, two buttons, two inputs, two outputs. Well, you might be saying, well, what if I have something like this? It's still SR latch. Two inputs, two outputs, two different things it controls the circuit with. Well, you say, what if I made this compact like this? Well, still, two inputs, two outputs. And somebody might say with this circuit, oh, well, both of the torches doesn't have to have an output, can just have one input, it wouldn't matter. Since this controls this torch, this part of the circuit, okay, and this button right here controls this part of the circuit. It wouldn't matter if you had two different let's just say you just only have one output. It wouldn't matter, since you still have to have two different buttons to activate two parts of the system. Now, while something like this, now something on the other hand, maybe like this, could be considered an SR latch, or at least a primitive or a crudely made SR latch, but no, it's not, because it's a T flip-flop. Just because it has two buttons and two outputs does not make it an SR latch. SR latch, two different parts of the circuits, one part goes to each button, okay? These two buttons still go to the same part of the circuit. T flip-flop flips the circuit, SR latch just changes one or another, and T flip-flop, it just changes it to yes or no. This one changes one to yes or the other one to no. It's switching these two. It's not physically changing the position of those two. Well, what if I build a complex circuitry like this as a memory? Would it work? Well, no, it wouldn't. Because this is dumb and stupid, because not only would you have 4 repeaters here, you also have this circuit going over here. So if you want this to stay on, you would have to have a latch, and you would have to have 2 latches. Same thing with it, something like this. But whenever I press the button, it goes to a second one behind here. So that way, if I have a third button, it clears it, and I can just do this again to remember it. And also, AND gates are very important to your circuits. AND gates or AND/OR gates. Now, I'm going to show you the main factor of this video. Okay? sr-latch memory versus T flip-flop memory. T flip-flop memory is more complicated. It doesn't require redstone repeat. Well, actually, yeah, it requires redstone repeaters to make the most efficient one of these, especially in the current version I'm at, or the ones I've found most effective, is this one right here. Okay? Let's just say I want to set A, okay? That sets A in both of the memory, so it shows up for me, I've set A, and it's also remembered as A. So it wouldn't matter if I just reset that A, right? If I just reset this visible one, it still wouldn't matter since the data itself is still saved. Okay? Well, you're saying, well, how do I recall that memory? All right, well, think of this, okay? This T flip-flop, okay? This retracts, but this is still saved because this block's still right here. We can take advantage of this. Because now all we have to do is just hook this line up right here to a, let's just say, button over there. So whenever these two are completed, it completes a circuit right here that permanently turns on A. Example. And it basically forgets the value, and it shows the value as A. And then we can just go over here and clear A. Now you might be saying, well, why can't I hook this A up with this A? Right here. Well, here's the thing though, if we were to do that, let's just say you did set that, it would still cause this right here to activate. And then that would be reset. So it would just activate this with resetting this, and the memory would still be here, so if I did that again, it would just alternate. It wouldn't really save at all. Also, this is a tad bit more complicated than the sr-latch because it takes a whopping 1, 2, 3, 4 AND gates to complete, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 T flip-flops. Which, by the way, these special kind of T flip-flops are a little less pricier because they require sticky pistons, and sticky pistons use slime blocks on a piston. So I guess technically, if you don't have the resources to build an sr-latch, then technically you could, but when realistically is that going to happen? Okay. Next up is the sr-latch memory. Okay. Now these status. So these two status, you can interpret that as whatever you want. Okay. I take these two status right here as remembering or not remembering. Okay. So let's just say, also this is expandable, so you can do this infinitely, although the wires back here would have to be redone every so often. So let's just say I want to remember A and C. Okay, so A and C inputs, I reset those, right? But it still remembers A and C up here. Okay, I could just simply reset that. But it's not remembering it. It's just locking it right here. So if I just wanted to save this one, if I just reset this, nothing happens. Because I have to reset A and B for it to fully go off. So technically, this is just a glorified AND gate. Not really a memory circuit. So now let's try to build a memory circuit then. Okay. Let's build a basic. Let's build that. Okay. And then we can take the input and turn it right here. Okay. And now I could just take that memory circuit so let's go ahead and reset this. So this is like this, and this is like this, okay? So if I just erase this one, it erases both, and if I click this one, it remembers this one, okay? So we just do that to wipe, and we can just do this again. So when we wipe it, because we have no way to physically reset this, it's not really that efficient of saving anything. So we have to bring this in here. We'll reset this, and then whenever we clear this, or so whenever we clear it, okay, if we then bring this back, clear this, you could still technically remember the two, but it's still not memory. So you might be saying, well, Hunter, if it's not memory, then what is it? Simple answer, again, glorified AND gate, okay? So remember, because this, and then this, to do that. So then we press this to get both of those, so that when we do reset it, it gets rid of both. Technically, technically you could just see this as a glorified AND gate, or you could just remember this as, you know, what it's supposed to be. So if we just, let's go and move these buttons over here. And we can do something similar to this. Okay, so let's just say we turn that on. We've set the value, okay? And if we clear that value, it still clears the value. So what if we do this, and then clear it? It still doesn't remember the value. The best way to do this? Well, we could introduce another sr-latch. Is what we could do. So we clear this, we do this, and then we clear it. It still doesn't remember because you're still not clearing it properly. So we need to move this whole thing back, and then we have this here. So we do this one, then we do this one, then we wipe it. There, we have memory. Okay? This would technically be memorying, since even though we wiped it, it still remembers. So now all we have to do is have a redstone line going up here with a button. We wipe it, and we've wiped the memory. So this is a compact version of that. So again, we set our value, we lock it in, we wipe the first value, and then we reset it to clear all values. So we're setting this one. This is just a notifier that this is actually armed. That you're ready, basically you're ready to set. You're ready to set the value of this, okay? And you set the value to 1 or on. You reset the visual value, saying basically you locked it in, and the values is still remembering, okay? So then you clear that value to get rid of the value. So you've set the value like this, you've reset the memory, but how do you recall the memory? It's remembered, but how do you recall it? Well, can't you just do this? And then do this? No, it doesn't work. You have to reset the value like this, and once you remember it, you clear it, and then you can bring that value back, but then you have to clear it again, and then reset the thing to forcefully remembering it, to forcefully forget it. It's a glorified AND gate. So we can take that literally and put that going into an AND gate, and then we can get a signal out. So A and B make 1. So let's just say true and true makes, or 1 and 1 makes 1, okay? We reset it, that's still remembered in its value. So we could still have it forcefully remember that, since that data is still technically saved like that. But if we do this like this, it's not going to do nothing since the value is already saved by this preset value. Technically, well, I call it preset because it still is, because this is still required to set this, and so is this. So then we would have to get rid of that value. We would have to destroy that value just to wipe the memory value. So technically, this is memory value, this is placeholder value, and this is the data you see. So this is the screen, but this is the saved data, okay? You save the data, it shows indicator, you go back to your game, but you don't want that to set, you don't want the save indicator to be on, so it turns it off. So then when you want to save again, or let's just say you're going to delete it, and it turns these two on to give that option, to then, here's, okay. So let's just, no, fuck, I messed up. Okay. So it doesn't show the indicator when you want to delete it, okay? Technically, realistically, it would, but in this case it doesn't. If you just want to delete the value, you just delete the value. So this and this, you have the value saved. So now you don't need that saved, so now you don't need that primer. Technically you can call it a memory primer. Alright, then you could just delete the data. So again, okay, arming. So this is an arming button. So this is a arming button, save button, undo the arming, well, yeah, go ahead and reset the arming button. So that way it's no longer armed and it's already saved, and then you just do the delete button. This is just only visualize that you have armed it and you have saved it. So then you can get rid of that altogether. And then you can just do this to forget about it. And everybody wants, and I know everybody's going to point this out, but let's just say that you have something along the lines of this. Okay? So many people might go to, well, this is RAM. No, this is not RAM. This is just an encoder. Now, technically, what you could do with this is you could take this as an sr-latch. You know, put a basic one of these on here. Oh, I guess I could put these right next to each other. Yeah, hang on. And this is relevant to the video, don't worry, I promise. Okay, so now these values are not set. Well, or just forgotten, or just not there, okay? So again, you would have to have some way to arm them, okay? So let's just say... Oh, sorry about that. Let's just say you have this, okay? Let's just say I want to remember this one. I want to remember the gold block and not the stone block, okay? So I find that data value, I go here and I set the value. So it's now set. But then I would have to have one of these to remember this. So if I reset the value, it resets the memory, or it just forgets. It's not technically remembering it. Like, for example, with T flip-flop, if you turn a T flip-flop on, it's not remembering it next time it comes across of it. That's not how memory works. I mean, you could say that technically it's a crude form of memory, since it's like core memory. That it has to be, that when it's used, or if it's used or reset, it's technically used, therefore that memory is gone. Technically, yes. But memory is something that you can store, like a battery. Say, for example, battery. Let's just say you want the rover to only come on whenever there's a... Let's just say you have a max battery that only has 2 volts. That's a rechargeable battery for 2 volts to turn everything on, okay? Let's just say now you want the rover to remember if it's at a certain percentage to deploy something, okay? What you could do is have an AND gate where, or a data value where it says basically if voltage is below, let's just say 1.5 volts, then trigger motor to deploy solar panels, okay? But that's not memory. That's just saying like, hey, if this and this are met, do this. But it still needs to remember to do that. Technically, you could say that that's a crude form of memory. Technically, AND gates are a crude form of memory. If you want to be critical about it, this and this would make way for this, but it doesn't remember it. I mean, even if you do something like this, where both memories are like this, if you forget one of those values, how does the computer know that if that value is like that, you have to have sensors? Or instead of having expensive sensors, let's just say something like this. If it's nighttime, oh wait, no, that's right, daylight sensors in this version don't do that. So let's say this, okay? You would have to have a sensor, okay? And let's have this represent our battery. One, two, bam, 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 bam. So the battery is dead, but you have the solar panel out, okay? Or hang on, no, okay? So let's say this, okay? There's no need for that lamp to turn off. There's no need for that lamp to turn on, okay? Your system is out of battery. Or actually, no, there would, hang on, fuck. Okay. So you have a system that is charged, okay? Your battery is running out, it's running out, it's running out, it's running out for as long as it can. Okay? Remember, it's still, your battery is, let's just say now your battery's dead, okay? You want it to recharge, so when your battery is dead, and when your sensor says, hey, it's nighttime, or basically it's just there to say if the battery is off, but the charging is on, have an inverter on the battery when it gets to low percentage, so that way this can technically go into here. So there. So every time it does that, it'll basically allow the solar panel to pass through and charge it until it's dead again, and then it just redoes it itself. So battery, it's going dead, it's going dead. Oh, time to charge. It's going dead, time to charge. It's going dead, time to charge. But that's not memory. That's an AND gate. Memory is something, let's just say that this circuitry gets damaged. Okay? Or let's just say something flips in the circuitry, like that. Now the battery will never recharge. So wouldn't it be nice to know if it remembers that there's sunlight out? So if this is broken, it still has another path to go? But you could just say, we'll take another path like this. Or something along those lines. You could. You very well could. But that's still not remembering. That's just if this circuit right here is broken, or this switches, therefore it goes to another path. But you still have the problem, okay, how does the robot know it needs to switch that path? It needs to have programming, and how do you store programming? In memory. So you need to be able to save ones and zeros. And then you need to have it constantly check if the ones and zeros are actually doing what it's supposed to do, and then you set other checks. So for example, you want the battery to recharge if it's dead, okay? So let's just say So memory is basically like this. Take a redstone torch out. If dead, turn off. Basically, say something like this. Okay. If this battery is dead, then if battery is dead or is low power, then tell this to switch, and then cut off. Okay. Now, mechanically speaking, this is easy to do, but still, you need to have. But if you have like a robot on Mars, something like this system isn't going to cut it. You need to have a way for the robot to actually, and also even that, right? You could use a circuit like this very well on Mars and live comfortably. Alright? I'm not saying that. But if you want any other way to store other valuable data, like for example, let's just say you find an iron and copper deposit. Two extremely useful metals. Iron could be great. Iron, you can build more rocket parts, and copper, you can build more machine parts. You can turn that into copper wire and build a generator there. And you can magnetize the iron with copper wiring, and you already have a base that has, or a base that already has magnets in them, or you have a base that just has, let's just say, some extra batteries or an extra generator, okay? What you can do then is take the battery, force the coil around the battery or not around the battery, but around the iron, let's just say a square, okay? And you want the magnetic field to go a certain way. You can then wrap the coil up accordingly, okay? And then you undo the voltage in that iron that should still stay there. Of course, there are better ways to do that. But let's just say you just want to prove the point to your guys that you can still use on hand to make other stuff, right? Most realistically speaking, you're not going to be able to do this, but just for the point I'm trying to prove, let's just say this is, okay? So, you do your iron plate that's magnetized now, okay? You separate that from the other iron, and then you have it where it's basically north-south to create AC power, okay? Or let's just say DC, since that's what your system takes, okay? Now let's just say for this sake that you do have components on you, like capacitors and resistors, that you can use to actually have your AC turn into DC. Let's just say that, okay? So you build AC, so basically, let's just say you have 6 magnets, north, south, north, south, north, south, okay? On a wheel, okay? And on the sides of the wheel, there's about 6 coils, okay? Wire them together properly, put that into 4 diodes, a capacitor, smooth out in a DC to DC converter, and boom, you have DC power that you have more DC power than what you would if you build a normal DC motor. Also, DC motors are great as motors, not really generators. DC is horrible for long line transportation. For example, if you built a DC generator, let's just say, let's just say you build a DC generator. Let's just say you have like 15 football fields or whatever, or you have 3 football fields long of land. That's nothing but, let's just say, gravel, and it's just like a square. Okay. If you then put your DC generator at one end and a light bulb at the other, odds are you're not really going to be able. It's not going to glow that brightly. If you put your DC generator closer, it will glow brightly. DC current has a limit on how much it can travel. Alright? AC has no problem because you could just bump it up to a higher voltage with copper coils and iron, and then you can have that travel long distances. And since it's going back and forth to the power source and to the home, every time it reaches further and further and further until it reaches your home, to where you have a loop of current that always goes back to the main point where it began and going back to your house. So you could have that, let's just say small AC motor, do that all the way to the end of the football field, like the 4 football fields, okay? Then you have a converter to AC to DC, then smooth to DC, then a light bulb. and then that light bulb's hooked up to the other side of the DC. So it goes from the generator, from positive all the way from the lines to the positive of the AC of the full bridge rectifier. Then it goes through full bridge rectifier all the way to the capacitor, depending on how far you have it, okay? Then it has through the capacitor to the DC voltage, uh, DC to DC converter. It basically smooths out the DC current. It goes through that, goes through the transistor, goes through that, it goes to the light bulb, okay? Goes back through the light bulb, goes back to the negative part of the terminal, and it goes to the other side, not through the capacitor, but to the other side of, well, yeah, on the other side of the DC to DC voltage. Goes back through the power lines, goes to the rest of the coil, and it completes a loop. As soon as those magnets switch opposite polarities, it goes the other way around. But since it's going the other way around, it still is forced to go through the capacitor and into the DC voltage regulator. So the best way to think of AC is like this. Oops. This is two different, let's just say you have two different parts of the coil. Okay? Okay, so then that coil has to go through. Alright, so this coil and this coil have to go through this. So let's just say technically this is our DC to DC converter. Okay? So it's constantly resetting it, okay? So it's 5, 7, 5, 7, 5, 7, 5, 7. Or hang on. Yeah, it's switching from 5 to 7, but this isn't. This is switching to 3 to 2. Okay? So then we can have that one going to another pair of this, and then have that go to another pair going into this. So now we can just take that line. I mean, for any case, you could just take any of these lines. But this, and this are still stable regardless of what this says. So we've taken blinking voltage or maybe we do need a longer thing for this. So now we need a longer, shorter one right here. And see, we just took regular old AC voltage and transformed it into DC. So technically, so you could just have this. Let's go ahead and draw like a real diagram, which you would see, okay? So right here you have your copper coil. You have your copper coil, okay? And you have two ends going out of it, okay? Let's put an iron core to make it stronger, okay? And then what you'll have is two redstone dust coming out. You'll have like two wires coming out of it, okay? Then that redstone dust is going to go into a thing that basically looks like this. That goes into there. And we'll use iron right here for an example, okay? So now these are on opposite ends. So when this copper coil goes to, let's just say this, okay? So when this is positive, it goes this route, so it goes in this direction, okay? So it will go in this direction. So it'll go into the coils round and round and round until it gets right here. It'll go through this coil, through this one, goes down to here, and let's just say goes to an LED. Goes from the LED all the way to the voltage, all the way up here, down here, and goes back to the coil. But let's just say we have a negative one, okay? So now it's going the other way, okay? So now it's going this way. So it will go through here, straight, light bulb, up here, straight, and back to the coil. So anyway, that's it for this video. I explained 2 or 3 subjects. Yeah, 3 subjects. So I explained memory, how basic electronic components work, and how you generate AC voltage and turn it into DC. That's it, guys. I will see you later, and hope y'all are having a fabulous day. Bye.